Hello everybody, welcome to Sense Business YouTube channel. I hope you guys are enjoying my videos, and this is another great video which will help you a lot in getting an A star in your IGCSE business topic. So we'll cover 2.4 internal and external communication in this lesson. So lesson's objective is we'll talk about internal and external communication, just like I said earlier, and we will also talk about the benefits and limitation of different communication methods, and we'll talk about importance of effective communication, and we'll move on to communication barriers and so on. So what is communication? The importing or exchanging of information by speaking, writing, or using some other medium. So that is what communication is. It is a process by which information or instruction is exchanged between one group or person to another. So we have two people here. This guy's the sender, he has an idea and he sends it to him, who is the receiver. So he evaluates it, accepts it, and replies to it or sends feedback. This is what communication is. And effective communication is that transferring of message from the sender to the receiver who understands the message. So communication becomes effective when this guy here sends a message that is clear and understandable to this guy. So that's what basically effective communication is. So somebody that can understand clearly what the sender is trying to say or the point that they are trying to make. That's what communication is. So now there's different categories of communication. So we have spoken or verbal communication, we have written communication, we have visualization or visual communication, and we also have non-verbal communication like body language, gesture, how we dress, act, or even our scent. I'll talk about these three just now, but before that I would like you to do a quick task that will help you understand this topic more and keep the topic in your long-term memory. So what I'd like you to do is to write down 10 methods of communication that can be used by a business. You can pause this video if you'd like more time. I'll give you 5 seconds now, and you can comment your answers below, so as a reminder for yourself. So you have 5 seconds. Perfect. Now let's view our answers. So I hope you have had one of at least 10 of these on your list, and you have commented below for me to check. You could have done the task in a group or alone if you're watching this on YouTube or on my website. But if you're watching this in your class, you could have done it in a group of 4. So let's start with verbal communication. So verbal communication can be done face to face, over the phone, radio, television, and other medias. So the benefit or the advantage of verbal communication is that it is fast, it saves time in communication, the opportunity for receiver to reply, because communication is face to face or over the phone, for example, they can instantly reply back to your question, quick in obtaining feedback once the message is delivered. It is flexible and effective for all. If this type of communication, it is cheaper way of communication and hence saves money. So this is one of the better ways to communicate if you want to save money. The disadvantages, however, is that emotions are visible, hence leads to trouble in some cases. So if you tell somebody something that they don't like face to face, they might find it offensive and you might get a punch. Well, I hope not, but do you get the point that I'm trying to make. So no permanent record of discussion. So there's no record and discussion whatsoever. So somebody, your manager could say, oh, could you book me a flight to Spain? And then he goes on holiday and comes back and says, oh, I never told you to do that. You just did it off your head. Do you get what I'm saying? So no legal validity. So it cannot be proved. So anything that's been said cannot be proved because it's not written or recorded or anything. It was just a verbal conversation. So it's difficult for certain people to understand the speech. So we need to make sure that if you ever do come across to communicate verbal with someone, make sure that your speech is clear and understandable. So now let's talk about written communication. Written communication is letters, emails, books, magazine, internet, or via other media. So the advantage of this is that it's permanent record of messages. So all messages are permanent. So there's a proof of it and everything. So may be required by law. So some documents, some information, for example, health and safety notice, need to be recorded for legal purposes. Can be easily sent to many people, for example, on email to all employees. So if you want to do verbal communication in a branch, that won't be a problem. So but if you had branches all over the world, so like Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, China, USA, UK, then you wouldn't be able to do a verbal communication with them. So a letter communication would be perfect. So you could send a letter or email to the whole of your company, and everybody would receive the same email and understand the same message that you're trying to make. So easy presentation of complex matters. So you could easily present information in information that's complex in an easier way using this format of communication. So use it as a reference. So if somebody says, oh no, I didn't say that, then you can go back and take the records out and say, well, you did according to this letter or according to this email. So it can be used as a reference. The disadvantage, however, is the reader may find long letters boring and hard to read. No feedback from receiver unless they reply. No body language, so you cannot see their body language. Expensive and time consuming. So if you are sat there writing a letter, that's time consuming, and so you could have been doing something else, but you're writing the letter, so it's that production time has been taken as well. So lack of understanding due to complex words like jargons used. So not everybody will understand your letter because of complex words that you might have used, or jargon, or words that are not familiar to them. And our final type of communication, visual communication. This is graphs, charts, maps, logos, and other visualization can communicate messages. So the advantage of this type of communication is that it is interesting. Reader may pay more attention to posters, videos than boring letters. Information can be clear than other methods. For example, video instruction can be clearer than letter instruction. So if you're telling somebody how it's done, but if you show them a video, some people will find that a lot easier. So simple and easy understand, and a lot of people will understand visual communication and they'll find it simple and easy. Disadvantage is that there's no feedback. So you could be playing an advert or a poster to your employees, but they will look at it, but you won't get any feedback. Some people may find charts and graphs difficult, and it can be costly if you're sitting there designing or employing somebody to design these posters or create these videos or visual messages. It can be very costly. So communication is done in these three ways. So you can be done internally or externally. It can be done formal or informal, a one-way communication or a two-way communication. So now internal communication is from from to people within the organization. So internal communication is done within the organization. So let's say you work for Apple. If you want to contact HR about your wage slips, that is an internal communication. So, or if you work for Apple and you want to communicate an Apple store that is in London, for example, but you are in China, that is also an internal communication because it's all part of Apple and it is within the organization. You both work for Apple. So examples would be employees talking to, excuse me. So examples would be employees talking to each other, directors sending an email to all employees, notice boards in office. These are all examples of internal communication. But poor internal communication can result in workers don't understand what they have to do, poor motivation, wastage, because employees will be doing wrong tasks because they have been given the wrong instructions. So these are the downsides or result of poor communication. So now we're going to talk about external communication. External communication is done from people inside the business to people outside the business. So this is the company. So anything communication between all these departments is internal. Any communication outside this department to other people is external. So example of external communication would be employees talking to customers. So you work for this corporation and you want to talk to customers over the phone, over the email, or any other form of communication. That would be an external communication. So ordering materials from suppliers. So you work for this company and you want to order material from suppliers. That is an external communication. Advertisement. So if this company places an advert here that tells people to order something, this company is advertising, communicating to these externally to get them to come to or to buy our products. So poor external communication results in unhappy customers and few sales. So if we have poor external communication skills, if our colleagues are not talking clearly to the customers who are external, then we could have unhappy customers. They will not be happy and we could probably lose a lot of money. Bad business reputation. At the end of the day, nobody wants to do business with a company that has bad reputation. Problem with suppliers, customers due to incorrect information sent to them. For example, wrong supplies being delivered or incorrect amount of money paid to the suppliers. So another problem with the external communication might be that people within our organization not paying attention and sending wrong amount of money or communicating wrong messages to external uh, parties. So then we have formal and informal. So formal communication is recognized and approved by the business. So it's formal emails, official meetings, legal and commercial notices, reports, public speaking. These are all formal. And then we have informal communication. Information is sent and received casually. So informal means that the communication is relaxed. So you don't really need to take notes or things like that. It is relaxed. It's between two people. It doesn't really need to be recorded. So it can be employees talking during lunch break, conversation with employees, sending a friendly email to your colleague. All these can be a casual or informal discussion, or your manager talking to you about uh, what would you think of a new kitchen for your department. So that would be a informal communication. There's no need to write to be serious about it. And then we have one-way and two-way communication. So one-way communication is that does not allow for a response. So one-way communication is this guy here, for example. He can say all he wants, but this guy doesn't need to reply anything. He doesn't request a reply from this guy. It is a one-way communication. A two-way communication is where the receiver sends feedback to the sender about the topic. So this is the receiver and this is the sender, for example. So a two-way communication is they both need to send and receive communication. That's what a two-way communication is. And I'm really sorry for the terrible driving. I cannot drive to save my life. So factors that affect the choice of an appropriate communication method. So the speed. Speed is one of them. So if the receiver has to get information quickly, then a telephone call or a text message has to be sent. If speed isn't important, a letter or email will be more appropriate. So the quicker you want the information, you'll have to pick a correct way of getting that information. So cost. If the company wishes to keep costs down, it might choose to use letters or face-to-face meetings as a medium of communication. Otherwise, telephone posters will be used. So if they want to save costs, they will try and make it as of quick phone calls and things like that to reduce cost of communication. Message details. If the message is very detailed, then written and visual methods will be used, because you don't want to get on phone to somebody, talk to them for hours with lots of details, and then hang up the phone, and then they don't understand a single word you said, or they can't remember anything. For this sort of situation, a letter or a visual method of communication would be best. So leadership style. A democratic style would use two-way communication methods such as verbal mediums. Uh, so our democratic leaders, if you remember, we talked about this in a previous video, is the type of manager who requests for ideas, but he makes the final decision. Autocratic one is just uses one way. He doesn't really need to ask anybody or anything. He just comes up with the idea and just uses it and brings into action. An autocratic is he doesn't take into consideration other people's idea. Would one use nonsense in an announcement? There's some more factors that I put down for you to understand is the receiver. So if there is only receiver, then a personal face-to-face or a telephone call would be more appropriate. If the staff is to be sent a message, a notice or email will be sent. So it depends on the receiver as well, and it also depends on the importance of a written record. So the message that you're trying to get across, does it need to be recorded? Is it important or is it not important? And also the importance of the feedback. Do you need to get the feedback or not? If it's so let's say if you need to approve a contract, then a quick email to your manager would be appropriate rather than creating a poster and sticking it on his wall. Does that make sense? So it's important that we know what is the purpose of the communication, and then we need to find a way to communicate which is appropriate so we get the best results. So communication barriers. Barriers means what could stop us, the problems. So problems with the sender can be difficult technology or language is used to communicate. So some senders will use a language that is not understandable by the receiver. So it is important that we ensure we use a language that is clear, easy, and simple. So the sender speaks too quick or not clear enough. So if the sender is speaking too quick or not clear, we need to ensure that we put something in place so that the sender speaks clearly, he speaks slowly and normal, so that everybody understands him. The sender sends wrong message or sends it to the wrong person. So we need to ensure that the messages they send is intended to the person that's receiving it. So poor listening habits or skills. So another problem could be that some people don't have good listening habits. So that could cause a problem, because if you are communicating to them and they're not listening, then that could be a communication barrier. Noise. So sometimes noise in the background or noise in the office or department can be a barrier, because they will not hear you clearly and there could be a miscommunication. Too much information or overloaded with information. So if you give somebody too much information to take on, that could also cause a little bit of problem. And there is some more communication barriers are found on the internet, which might be interested to you. So you can also prejudge relationship, emotional responses, systems. So these are some other communicational barriers. And our final topic, problems with communication channels. So sometimes it's not just the communication that's problem, it's the channels that we communicate can be a problem too. So communication channel basically means the ways we communicate or techniques we use to communicate. So the wrong communication channel was used. For example, important letter placed on a board that doesn't get seen. So if there's a very important update about health and safety, for example, or about the wages, that should be sent to all employees so they all view and understand and read it. But placing that on board would be on notice board would be not appropriate, because not everybody looks at notice boards. So that is the wrong channel used. So no opportunity for feedback. A sender uses a one-way communication channel which does not allow receiver to contribute ideas. So using a way which just gives information, it just communicates one way, so there's no way of getting any ideas back. But where you do need ideas back is a wrong method. So where if you need to use a two-way communication but you use a one-way communication system, then that could cause problem and you'll not get any new ideas or anything that you wanted. Finally, question time. Thank you very much for watching, and please write down any question, concerns, suggestions you have in the comment section below, and I will be more than happy to answer them for you. What do you think of these videos? Do you like them? If so, please let me know in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching, and please watch the next video to help you understand more. Goodbye.